I don't know about you, but after drinking from the IoT fire hose for about 8 hours, I'm ready for a cocktail. Thanks for Cisco for doing that. But before you have that cocktail, let me introduce Mark Dunson from Emerson. Now, Todd and Bentley from TAG came to me from one of the networking events and said, we have an idea about taking the Atlanta tech community and let's kind of coalesce the thought leadership, let's bring it together, and let's make Atlanta the next Silicon Valley for IoT. So a lot of people signed up early on that, folks from the Falcons, leadership, SAP, Intel, and the like. And we've spent a day together. Hopefully it's helped galvanize us together as an ecosystem. And Emerson is one of those companies that they're sort of like Northwestern Mutual Life. You know, they're not advertising during the NBA playoffs or things of that nature, but they're quietly behind the scenes doing major industrial things from an IoT perspective. In fact, they've been doing it for about 4 to 5 years. We're proud to call them a partner. And Group Vice President Mark Dunson is going to speak about how they're doing it and the investments they're making in Atlanta to be part of the pillars of making this the next Silicon Valley for IoT.
Thank you, Melly, and thank you, Todd and the TAG group for giving me the opportunity to speak today. As Melly said, I come from Emerson, and we are, I'll go into that in a few minutes. I'll give you a quick snapshot of Emerson, what our business does specifically here in Atlanta, talk to you about a few of our IoT or connected solutions that we're offering, and then go through some aspects of the regional aspect of why we believe Atlanta is a great hotbed for this type of activity. As Mally said, we're kind of a behind-the-scenes player. We're a 126-year-old global multinational engineering technology company. And most of our highly engineered technologies go into highly engineered systems. And so when you start to think about connected solutions or Internet of Things, our approach to that is really how do you take the deep domain knowledge from tens of years of understanding these technologies and systems and bring the connectivity and data together with that. As Mark said just before me, the other Mark, this is all about business process improvement, really. It's all about doing things better with visibility of the things you've done before. And we also believe that it's really solutions which are going to bring a tremendous amount of value to the installed base of what's there today in the capital-constrained environment. So as I talk through that, maybe you can see some of those threads coming through my discussion here. I come from a group, part of Emerson, which is called Commercial and Residential Solutions. We offer different types of technologies which go into that particular space. We do some interesting things, a lot around human comfort, which would be heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. We do things about food preservation, which is refrigeration. We have a company called InSinkerator, which you may have one of their garbage disposers in your house. We actually use that technology to grind food waste in commercial environments and provide that to anaerobic digesters to provide energy. And the servicing of those units is done with IoT to understand if the tank is full and those different types of things. So a great application you showed earlier for that. I talked about commercial and residential solutions. I have responsibility for both sides of that, and I'll touch quickly on our residential solutions and spend most of my time on the commercial side because that is what our Atlanta-based business is mostly focused on. On the residential side, we're focused on the infrastructure of the home. And by the infrastructure of the home, we're specifically focused on the heating, ventilating, and air conditioning system in the home. We have two major initiatives there. One is our Sensi Wi-Fi thermostat. You can find it on Amazon. It responds to Alexa. It's connected to Alexa, so you can ask Alexa to turn up and down your temperature in your bedroom or your office or that type of thing. The other solution we have is called Comfort Guard, which is kind of a behind-the-scenes application which goes on to your heating, ventilating, and air conditioning system, providing you information on was it installed properly? Is it operating properly? Does the filter need to be changed? Is it using more energy than it should be? And actually, Reliable Heating and Air Conditioning, a big contractor here in Atlanta, is one of our lead partners for deploying that. And they're using it to create a smart service offering. So they do a lot of service contracts for residential air conditioning, and they use that to provide their customers a much smarter way to think about how to operate that. So now I'm going to swing into the commercial side of our business. We call that business Retail Solutions, and you'll understand why in a couple charts here. That was started here in Georgia, in Kennesaw, when we acquired a refrigeration controls company in the late 90s. And we provide electronics and solutions, managed services through monitoring to various types of retail establishments and commercial establishments, typically involving some kind of refrigeration or food preservation. And you can see some of our customers there. We are a global business headquartered out of Kennesaw. About half of our business is coming from outside the United States. What we talk about is the cold chain. And the cold chain, you've probably heard about before, farm to fork. Starting at the left side of the chart where you harvest, that product is moved through a number of different storage and transportation facilities, finally reaching the place where you either buy the food and take it home or consume it on site. And so we really started in this business in the supermarket sector, and I'll show you that we're starting to expand our applications across other types of retail applications, and then moving back up the cold chain to try to provide more data for the people involved with that. And so you're watching both food and the assets that protect the food along the path there. And you can see that it's actually a chain which has many stakeholders. There's many handoffs. If you talk about a seamless data idea, it's pretty challenging because different people have different ideas for the data. There's some conflicts in the channel for having the data and sharing the data. So that's one of the things that we will plan to work on as we move forward. So we're really trying to solve some big problems. When I first put this chart together a year and a half ago, I was stunned to know that close to $1 trillion of food is wasted every year from farm to fork. If you think about the energy spent keeping the food cool along that cold chain, either in a truck, in a supermarket, in a warehouse, it's $32 billion. And if you talk about the maintenance cost to maintain all the equipment, $18 billion. So there's a lot of money being deployed in sort of keeping our food preserved and keeping that equipment running, which we believe can all be addressed through business process improvement or connected solutions. So those are the sort of high-level problems we're trying to solve. The first place I noted we started was in retail supermarkets. We're connected to roughly 17,000, 18,000 sites on 4 continents today, which are connected into our data center in Kennesaw. And we receive about 30 million events into that, and we process those through algorithms, machines, and we also have some people who do triage of those events as well. We oversee about $2 billion of perishable product, and about $7 billion of energy is sort of managed by our system. So it's a pretty well-established market. We've been doing that for 15 years, before Internet of Things was a thing. And it's been a good business for us. And you can see some of the statistics in the middle. Security is obviously important. We deal with lots of large multinational retailers who are concerned about security as a big aspect of what they do. So that's important to us. We also do that through sort of 2 different types of services. One is what we'll call reactive services. That's where the devices are sending us alerts because something is off kilter. The ice cream freezer in this store on that street is out of temperature, and if somebody doesn't address it, the ice cream's going to melt. And when you go to the store to buy your ice cream that you like, it's not going to be there, and you're not going to go back to that store. And so that's the type of problem we're trying to solve with what we're doing. The other thing we do is derived sort of algorithmic-based services. And we have an algorithm. One of our algorithms we developed can predict the refrigerant leakage in a refrigeration system. And it's a little bit technical, but a retailer, somebody like Walmart, has hundreds of millions of dollars of refrigerant. It's an asset, basically. And most retailers are leaking that refrigerant sort of between 10 to 25% a year. So think about an asset that you have where you're kind of losing it at 10 to 25% clip a year. Our algorithm can help predict very minute leaks, probably 30 days before it might be detected in a given system. That's just one example. The other place that we're expanding into is in the small format area. And as you might understand, a supermarket's a pretty big operation. You can see all the refrigerated equipment in there. They burn a lot of energy. There's big problems there to be solved. In small formats, the operations are much less complex, but they're also less supervised today. Let me ask all of you, who this week decided that they were going to go to a convenience store to buy lunch versus the normal place they might buy lunch? There's not a single hand coming up here. But there's a lot of convenience store operators who are actually serving prepared food now. Not just the sandwich in the shrunk wrap box, but an actual kitchen in the convenience store. Fresh food for supermarkets and convenience stores is becoming more and more important. And so having oversight of that food freshness and integrity is very important. And you can see these types of operations also require some oversight in those different types of things as well. The other place we've been focusing is in ocean transportation, and that's mostly an asset-based activity, where we're monitoring refrigerated shipping containers as they move across the ocean, really telling whether that system is working properly and holding temperature for the food. If you've ever seen a container ship up close, there's hundreds or thousands of containers on there. There's one or two service people to address all those containers when they're on the ship. And you don't want to be the service guy out in the middle of the sea having to go 5 or 6 containers down in the hull to see if that container is working properly. So monitoring them is a very important aspect. That is moving now from more of an old school style of monitoring to more of a progressive monitoring using cellular-based connectivity. And what that allows us to do is offer a lot more value-added applications, which provide value to those shippers of those containers. The people that are our customers there are the shipping lines who own and utilize the containers. The last place that we're starting to put focus, I wouldn't say the last place, but the next to last thing that we started putting effort on is the ground transportation of food. And if you look at truck telematics today, it's pretty pervasive across the industry, but what is not as pervasive is the monitoring of the food which is actually in the trucks being shipped around. And that's becoming more and more important as freshness becomes important, as shelf life becomes important. If you offer a special on your blueberries, you want to make sure that they're there on time and that they're fresh and they're going to last for a few days as you have them in the store. So I think it gives you some idea of the things that we're doing around connected solutions in this space. So our kind of vision is, as you start to put these puzzle pieces together, there's the potential for more of a holistic view of the cold chain. And that's probably a little bit a long way off or a little bit a long shot, but as these technologies start to come together and with that vision in mind, we believe there's many different types of things that you could understand. So for instance, if a pallet of strawberries was harvested and it sat on the side of the field for 4 hours in the sun, it's probably not the pallet you want to ship to New York from California. You probably want to ship that to Oregon or someplace closer. So these are different types of things that you might think about, in terms of moving product around, staging it, developing better business practices by having information in front of you. So what does that mean for us? We've been at this for 15 years. Any of you in this room obviously are here interested about Internet of Things. You know that this has changed significantly in the last 2 years or 3 years. And we started out back when it was kind of a build your own, do your own thing. We connected enterprise to enterprise, heavy IT involvement. But as we move into more fragmented parts of the market, which don't have IT support and those types of things, we need to move to a more lightweight way of executing these types of things. If you go into a convenience store and try to install a system, if the technician spends 2 hours figuring out how to set the IP address and those types of things on the router, you basically burned a good portion of your profit in the installation. So you need to be able to walk in, install, power up, commission, and beyond. So that's why it's becoming more important for us to deal with wireless as a connectivity option. And that's really how we got engaged with AT&T and Jasper as a part of that, who've been good partners to us. And so you can see where we're kind of going, A, on the connectivity side, but B, how do we move to more of a configure versus code, because we don't get paid for plumbing, we get paid for value, which is developing the applications and those types of things. And so how do we get our technology people more focused on those types of things and not getting, really wrapped up around the axle on how do I make this stuff connect and what's all the infrastructure, which is very important, it's very difficult, but that shift needs to happen as well. Just a few charts on our presence here in Georgia. Our office is in Kennesaw off Chastain Road, just across from Kennesaw State University. It's our global headquarters for this connected solutions business. You can see some of the stats there. We have all the major functions there, including software engineering, hardware engineering, those types of things. We've been continuing to grow that operation over the last 10 years. We have around 200 plus employees there as well. We're also very interested in working with the community, not only from a technology standpoint, but from a public service standpoint. And you can see some of the organizations we work with. I make a plug for FAST, which you may not have heard of. It's the Fulton Academy of Science and Technology. It's a new charter school which is opening in Roswell area. And it's an innovation in STEM charter school. And their foreign language they're offering is coding, which is kind of interesting. My son's going to go there, so I'm a little bit, wedded to it, but it's an interesting thing, and I think those types of things, sort of public-private parental partnerships, will help to drive this pretty well going forward. I think Atlanta, for us, provides a lot of regional benefits. We kind of landed here by acquisition, but as we've been here, it's been a great place for us to be. Clearly, as a global business, it's a hub. You can go almost anywhere globally pretty simply. It provides a great quality of life for technical people, which I think many people enjoy, and we're now starting to really engage a lot more in a lot of cross-pollination with universities as well. Kennesaw State, which is quite close to us, and Georgia Tech as well. And I think for IoT, with Bell South and a lot of the other companies that have been in Atlanta for some time, now AT&T, there's a strong legacy of telecommunications, which obviously connectivity is a huge aspect of Internet of Things, which I think gives Atlanta a pretty good, good leg up on those types of things. I'll talk on 2 slides here about something we've done in the last 12 months. As we opened what we call the Helix Innovation Center. And we've invested about $40 million over a couple years to set up this innovation center. One of them is on the campus of the University of Dayton in Ohio, and provides 5 different practical areas to do innovation around the different market segments that I've talked about. And you can see for us as mostly a component technology company or a system technology company, we're trying to sort of take the wraps off of how do we think about these types of solutions. We have a 2,000 square foot home which is built inside of an environmental chamber there. So we can basically test any world condition within a sort of a 1 or 2 week period, which is pretty interesting. We did an innovation session there, and we had a blind person, we had somebody who was interested in skin feeling. So when you talk about comfort, we're trying to get away from just, is it hot or cold, is it humid or not humid, but what does comfort mean for a home? So that's just one of the ideas or things that we're working on in terms of innovation. Along with that, we opened another center in Centergy downtown on 5th Street, which is also called the Helix, and that's really to leverage and tap into the experience we're having here in Atlanta, and a lot of what Atlanta has to offer in terms of computing and connectivity and man-machine interface and those types of things. So we're taking our Ohio Center, which is very mechanically focused, and combining that with the data connectivity focus of Georgia and bringing that together. So I think that plays really well into our discussion today. Not done for this conference, obviously, but you can see that we see very high value there. And as we started to build the Ohio Center, we went down to Centergy and Tech Square and met with Georgia Tech, and the vibe and the energy was just incredible. And we said, wow, we have an office 20 minutes from here. You're not going to pick this up by just going to lunch down there, a few times a month. We need to have a presence there, and it's been fantastic for us so far. I'll close with this slide and thank TAG, and it's actually interesting that I was looking at TAG as an interesting group to really become involved with, and this Internet of Things came together under Todd's high energy leadership, and we're very proud to support this, and I think it's a phenomenal community of folks, and the more and more people I meet, not only through this, but the other tech community people around town, it's been really quite flooring to me to see what's happening here in Atlanta, so we're glad to be a part of that. That's all I have for my charts. I'd be happy to take a question or two. I think I have 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Well, one, I'd say it's case by case, and I think this stuff is being done electronically today. I think we monitor a bunch of stores in Australia, supermarket stores. It's different than a truck, but they have to keep records on site for 7 years. If the food inspector walks in and says, can you show me the temperature of that particular case 3 years ago on April 24th, they need to produce a report on the spot, or they get subjected to a lot of issues with food quality. So that's already started there. We're seeing it with the approval of ocean-going shipments into the U.S. by the FDA. That can be done electronically before the ship actually arrives to the port, and we're seeing it across other aspects. So I think it might be, case by case, or maybe the trucking company requires that. I think one interesting fact on the perishable food shipments is that 85% of the perishable food shipments in the U.S. are done by trucking companies with 5 trucks or less. So you can understand those shipments are organized by freight brokerage companies or third-party logistics companies, but the actual work is being done by small trucking companies, which probably historically are not the best at record keeping. So maybe some things are also put in place to make sure or ensure that happens, to make sure it's done properly. Any other questions? I'm done. Thank you.